the man was born on the 4th of July. And from the American roots of his fantastic music to the proud manner in which he conducted himself as a goodwill ambassador for his country all over the world, he was American. He was as American as his birthday. Louis Armstrong, Satchmo, born 1900, died 1972. And in between, oh, didn't he ramble. In the year 1960, the night ahead of a San Diego concert attended mainly by United States Navy personnel, Louis Armstrong and his wife, Lucille, and some others of us sat socially at the Knickerbocker Hotel in Hollywood. As Satch began recalling golden moments from his mellow but indelibly established career, jazz authority Fred Rebel of San Diego turned to him and he said, "Satch, I'd be guilty of cheating history if I didn't get some of this on tape." Louis looked back at him for just a split second and said,
"Step right in, Daddy, and we'll cut out there."
It was then that guitar virtuoso Bob Bain plugged in a microphone, pushed the record button, and this is the memorable result. Fred Rebel, known to his jazz friends by his initials, CFR, was speaking of Satch's music as we began.
All of this music stemmed from New Orleans, with its famed Storyville district, Congo Square, the influence of the French and the Spanish, the Creole, and the rich musical heritage of the African Negro. As a matter of fact, CFR is a Creole himself. This music, some say, is America's only true contribution to the world's great music. But regardless of the raving controversy, one statement can be made with little fear of contradiction, and that is, in the first half of this century, no other single figure has loomed so large on the jazz scene as Louis Armstrong. As my friend Gene Krupa said in Time magazine, no band musician today on any instrument, jazz, sweet, or bebop, can get through 32 bars without musically admitting his personal debt to Louis Armstrong.
Hallelujah.
Louis did it all, and Louis did it first. And of course, every one of you know about the great Satchmo today, about his work as a goodwill ambassador for our country all over the world, and believe me, we need goodwill ambassadors today, about his many personal triumphs. But, Louis, I don't know how many of our listeners know about the beginning. I know something about it. Let's, you and I, go back to the beginning, back when you were not the great Satchmo, internationally known, but just Louis Armstrong in New Orleans. And I believe you were called, even then, back in those pre-Chicago days, Kid Louis, is that right?
That's right, but I still feel the same. The people put those monikers on you because that's the way they feel.
Tell me something about that, will you? I have studied for a great many years the New Orleans scene in that period. Of course, I think all of our listeners who understand classic jazz know that very few people had the honor of being called king. And as I understand it, for someone to be lifted up and called kid, this was the first step in this, in those early days.
Yeah, well, I was just a kid, and I was weighing 120 pounds.
You weighed what?
120 pounds.
You gained weight.
And they called me Little Louis, and that's 1918.
Little Louis came
This
first.
is 1960, and I only weigh 125, so I ain't doing so bad.
Tell me, Louis, you of course were born in New Orleans.
That's right.
When?
I was born in New Orleans, July the 4th, 1900.
1900.
And it's
is it-
one street in New Orleans in the back of town section called James Alley.
I know James Alley. I know where it is.
Gambling houses, those houses.
Yes, I know.
And churches.
The mansions we're talking about.
One block and everything, and still the schoolhouse and everything. And nothing excited us. We still went to school every day.
Lula White was just around the corner.
Well, Lula White was on Basin Street.
On Basin Street?
Yeah.
Well, now, in those days, music was king with the marching brass bands and the wagons with their advertising signs hung on the side. And I never was there, but you were. Now, the trombone player leaning over the tailgate And, of course, there were the bistros and the bars and the mansions of Storyville that we're
That's
talking
right.
about.
Carry on.
Now, the term tailgate I've heard, and maybe this is a legend. There's so many legends about all of this, like Dick Spider-Key's
Well,
legend.
the music proves it. It was real life.
Yes.
And the honky-tonks.
Is it the fact that in the bandwagons they made the trombone player play facing aft, as they say in the Navy, so that the slide wouldn't hit the others in the stomach?
Well, no, they kept in a wagon. We'd get an old furniture wagon for advertisement and put the trombone in. That's why they call it tailgate music.
Yeah,
they put the trombone and the bass on the tailgate.
Oh, the bass there, too.
Yeah, because when the trombone had to slide, he wouldn't have to knock the other instruments
He
off.
hit the other man
He
off.
had free sliding, and we were sitting in the drums was close to the driver.
Uh-huh.
See, we didn't have no piano. We had guitar.
Now, the pianos were only in
Well, didn't have no piano in the later days.
later.
But there was guitar and bass, which summed up for the piano.
Sure, really, these were the marching brass bands.
Well, no, the brass bands would when they played the funeral march and take a body to the cemetery, playing "Flee as a Bird."
Right.
Flee as a bird in the mountain. See?
Right.
And
then when
when
they turned around, they came back.
they put the body in the ground, and when Reverend said his ashes to ashes and so forth, and then they turned around, and the snare drummer took the handkerchiefs from the snares, what made the dead sound.
Wait, this I never
See, when they played a funeral march, the snare drum, they had in the brass band, he had to put a handkerchief on the snares to deaden the tone.
to deaden the tone.
Then when he takes it out, then he rolls up the drums, and we go back playing "Didn't He Ramble?" You remember?
Yeah.
When the members of
Well,
the
it's a
lodge,
tribute to the
when the
late
lodge
departed.
go back from the cemetery, everybody's happy. They rejoice over the dead down there.
Certainly.
So after he's in the ground, and they go back to the hall playing "Didn't They Ramble?" And then when you get to the hall, they open up a keg of beer.
Yeah, there it goes. Now, Louis, there were very few recordings in those days, and it is really only through you and, to my knowledge, only
Joe Oliver and
very few others. I mean, Kid Ory and
Kid Ory,
very few others.
Kid Ory,
Sidney
Joe Oliver,
Bechet,
they
Lou
share,
Alcott.
they're all legends.
But so it's only through you that we can recreate that wonderful era, and
That's
I don't think
right.
it'll ever come again.
And I can tell you all about it.
Well, I'd like to go back, if we can. I have a picture here of a very, very young Louis Armstrong that I was given. Now, I don't know where this picture was taken,
Well,
but you appear to be in your very early 20s.
That picture was taken in Chicago when I was playing second trumpet with King Oliver
It was
at
taken
the
in-
Royal Garden.
Must have been about 1922.
1922. Yeah, I was a
1922.
cute little old boy, 22 years old. Look at that.
Well, you know, though, really sitting here talking to you, truthfully, I mean, music must be the thing that takes care of, soothes the savage beast. Not that you're a savage beast, but I mean,
No,
you
but
don't look too
the
old.
saying goes.
That's right. Saying is true, isn't it?
Yeah, we go to the South. We play 51 universities, and all through Mississippi, Louisiana, and everywhere. And every time you look on the wall, they say, "Welcome, Satch."
And that's
right.
true all over the world. Now,
That's right.
Satch as a kid in knee pants, that was before this picture. I suppose you were part of the second line, as I understand
Well,
it's
yeah.
called in New Orleans.
Well,
Isn't
the
that so?
second line is pool players, hustlers, gamblers who decide to follow the funeral to the cemetery because they know they're going to play something hot. And they got one suspender down, and then when they come back playing Didn't They Ramble, everybody's swinging.
Everybody's swinging around.
Yeah.
Now, the second line were the kids, then, that followed the bands, and
That's
they
right.
study the real musical greats
Well,
of the day.
kids grown up, the wives leave their cooking and everything.
Did you ever hear Bolden play?
Well, I heard him when I was about 5 years old. He said in those days, musicians that played at like in the Funky Butt Hall, they only they play a half hour in front of the hall on the sidewalk. So people at shopping Saturday night could hear the band. They
Sure.
might go in, and we wasn't allowed in the hall, but we could hear them that time. And when they go inside, we had to go to bed.
Yeah. Well, now,
That's the
Bolden
only
was-
time I heard
Bol-
Bolden.
I have heard conflicting stories. First, that Bolden was the first king, and then I've also heard there was somebody about 1850 that is,
Well, whoever was that before, I remember from Bolin, the next was Joe Oliver.
Joe Oliver was
That's my king
That's your king, I know.
in my days,
We're coming to
which
that.
is a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. Now tell me on the second line. I've also read, in books like Rudy Blesch's great book and others.
Yeah, Rudy Blesch, good writer.
I've read that that the youngsters, the second line, were also sort of the eyes, the spies of the favorite band because there were great musical battles. I understand when everybody tried to play everybody down.
Well, the second line and people that hears the tailgates, sometimes they have 2-3 dances given, and they might have 2-3 bands, and the second line is your crowd.
Oh, it's your like
best,
in the Grand Opera,
the band that plays the best get the big crowd.
I see. Now, back in 21 and 22 in New Orleans, you were playing in a Storyville establishment. I don't know the name of it. This band was led, I have been told, by Kid Ory.
Yeah.
And also, just previously to this, or just after it, you were playing on an old sidewheeler, a Mississippi riverboat. Is that right?
Yeah, I was playing with Fate Marable.
Who?
Fate Marable.
On the boat. Uh-huh.
That's the boy who played a calliope.
Calliope.
And he had the best band that come on that river boat. And I was only 18 years old when I was playing with Fate until Joe Oliver sent for me to come to Chicago to play second trumpet with him.
Where were you with Kid Oliver in there? What
Well, in Chicago.
No, I mean in New Orleans.
In New Orleans,
Yes.
I took King Oliver's place
In his band?
when he left to go to Chicago first.
Ah, and
So-
what establishment was that?
Well, that was Kid Ory's band. King Oliver and Kid Ory had the best band in New Orleans.
Where were they
Well,
playing?
I was playing on the boat with Fate Marable at the
I
time.
see.
So when Joe Oliver went to Chicago, they sent for him, and he and Jimmy Noon. And in 1922, Joe Oliver, who was teaching me the trumpet before he left, he sent for me to play second trumpet. That's when I left
Now,
Fate
what was the
Marable.
name of the establishment that this Kid Ory's band and Joe was playing in? Do you
Oliver
remember?
Norris
I mean,
band.
there's so
Oliver
many-
Norris band. So when Oliver left, they said, "Go get Little Louis."
Now, speaking of Jimmy Noon, I've heard this someplace. So much of this is legend, and you can straighten so much of it out
Yeah.
for history because this is being recorded. I have heard that Jimmy Noon's real name, instead of Noone, was Noonez. Is this correct?
No,
It is not.
Jimmy Noon.
It was Jimmy Noon. I mean,
Jimmy
that's
Noon.
another one of these
That's
legends.
all I know. And
Yeah,
he
well,
was
he
a
probably
smooth
one of these
clarinet
stories.
player. Benny Goodman, all of them took the style from him.
Yeah. Now, these kings, we have mentioned several times, the greatest, Joe Oliver. Now, I've heard that he was like a father to you. Is that
Yes,
right?
he was.
He was?
Yeah, he felt like a father to me.
Well, that's what I've heard. Then in 1922, as we've just said, there came that summons from the great King Oliver to join him in Chicago. A second
That's
trumpet
right.
Storyville had been closed and things were going down. Now,
Correct.
when exactly did you join him? And I think it was at the Creole Jazz Band. I think it was.
It was Creole Jazz Band, and Lil Hardin was on the piano.
Yes.
Honoré Dutre was on trombone.
On Roach, yes.
And Baby Dots was on the drums, and Johnny Dots was on clarinet. They were brothers.
Right, that was Baby Dodds. And would
yeah.
you tell me, would you care to express an opinion of the greatest of the two drummers, Baby Dodds and Zooty?
Well, Baby was more fantastic than Zooty.
Yeah,
Zooty was
They're both good.
was a swing man, hold his head on the side. But Baby, when he got through beating on the rims of them drums and hitting them
He
cymbals,
really did it.
they both had a little something on the ball.
Right.
But Baby Dots was more fantastic than Zooty.
I don't think anybody would disagree. Now, that was in 1922. Now, Jimmy Noon and King Oliver had gone to Chicago in 1918, and he took Chicago by storm.
He sure did.
Now, let's get nostalgic, if we may, and go back to a recording date that you made in March of 1923. And this number, as I understand it, was composed jointly by you and Joe Oliver, and that's Dipper Mouth Blues. Is that
Dipper
right?
Mouth Blues, yes.
So let us momentarily pass
First time we made it was on the Jeanette record. We used to go down Richmond, Indiana, an old warehouse, and make those recordings. And I used to have to stand at the door while Joe stood in the horn and play second trumpet, because I was young and my tone was so strong.
You were second trumpet.
Yeah.
Ah, Louis, what a band. As I have it, this was composed of the one and only Joe King Oliver, you, Louis Armstrong, second trumpet, Honoré Dutre, trombone, Johnny Dodds, clarinet, Lil Hardin, piano, Bill Johnson, banjo, and the great Baby Dodds on drums. Am I right in my history?
You're right.
Boy, they don't make them like that anymore.
No, 2/3 of them died out, but the memory still lingers on.
But don't you think it was a period of time that we lived in then that could never be recreated?
But the essence of that music is still around, and we keep it that way.
That is
Because
why...
that's the real music.
That is the real music.
Yeah.
And there are so very few. There's lots of imitators, but there's very few.
Yeah, but very poor.
They sure are. I mean, I listened to another to it. Well, I don't want to get into this, but we
No,
listened
we
to a
don't have to
so-called
do-
Dixieland band the other night. This wasn't even called Dixieland.
Yeah, well, it's a few around yet.
Oh, there's some good ones.
There's Uri still around,
Yes.
Pop Foster.
Shit is around, Bob Foster's, but not many.
Zudi's still around.
Yeah, Zoody's around. What is Zoody doing now?
He's playing at the Metropole in New York.
Is he?
Yeah.
Making out all right.
Where they have all those bands. Nothing but jazz band, Dixieland.
And one of the greatest thing about you, Louis, whatever you did it best. Creole jazz band. Your assignment was to play second trumpet.
That's right.
But I don't think anyone ever heard a better second
Yeah,
trumpet.
but I wouldn't play second trumpet to nobody but King Oliver.
That's just
because
it.
in my right, I mean, Joe knew that I could go on my own then,
right.
but the respect I had for them, for King Oliver, I never blow over him.
Of course you
Until I
didn't.
got-
You didn't blow over him.
Until I got away from him, I never did blow over King.
Ah, that's wonderful.
And a lot of cats used to say, why don't you go on there? Why don't you? I said, this is my man. I live for him. He taught me the things that I want to know about that horn. And as long as I play with him, he's top man.
Right.
And I never did blow nothing over high D until I left Joe Oliver.
Right, and
That's the
so the
respect.
result of that was, Louis, you played the best second trumpet that's probably ever been played.
That's right. And when
So-
he died, I was the first one there to do everything that I can for Joe.
But there were other bands. How about Fletcher Henderson? Do you remember playing Irving Berlin's great number, Mandy, Make Up Your Mind? Now here, of course, you were no longer second trumpet, but on your
Well,
first
understand
step,
that, yeah.
you were on your first step to greatness at
That's
this
right.
time. You were number one then.
Yeah, but Fletcher didn't dig me like Joe Oliver.
No.
He had $1 million talent in his band, and he never thought enough to let me sing or nothing.
He didn't let
He'd
you
go hire a singer that live up in Harlem
Yeah.
that night for the record the next day who didn't even know the song.
Oh.
And I'd say, well, let me sing. No, all he had was the trumpet in mind.
That's right.
And that's why he missed the boat. In those days, all Fletcher had to do was keep his band and the
That's
things
right.
that I'm doing now.
He was a, what did he call him? A society band, didn't
That's
he?
right.
Well,
Like
we
them
had-
Big Day Boys.
That's right. That group, I think, with Fletcher Henderson was you, of course, Howard Scott, Elmer Chamber, and cornet, right?
Yeah,
Charlie Green, trombone, Buster Bailey, clarinet.
that's right.
But the saxophone suddenly got in there, didn't it? There was an alto sax there.
Oh, Don Redmond.
It was Don
Don Redmond, Coleman Hawkins.
Yeah,
and
both of
Buster.
them.
Yeah.
And of course,
They wasn't
Henderson.
using but 3 saxes in those days.
Yeah.
And there was the
Henderson
3
on the piano.
That's right.
Dixon banjo. Who played the tuba there?
Escudero.
Oh boy, what a memory you've got.
How can you forget the beautiful things?
No, you can't. And Kaiser Marshall on the drums, wasn't it?
Yeah, what a drummer he was.
See, that was after you went to New York. That was what?
1924.
1924. Yeah.
We played at the Roseland.
Was that at Roseland?
Roseland Ballroom.
You know-
And Sam Lannon's band was on the next
you know,
bandstand.
I danced to that.
You remember Red Nichols and Sam
I
Lannon?
sure do, because I was born there.
Miff Mole on trombone?
Yes, I do indeed. Now, let's see. There was one thing though, reading out Fletcher Henderson and his so-called society orchestra. With you as lead trumpet, you worked with the great Ma Rainey and Trixie Smith in about that same year, did you?
That's right.
And I don't think you did them the same. I think you did Ma Rainey in late '24, and it was probably the next year with
And
Trixie.
I made a lot of records with Bessie Smith, and I made with Ma Rainey. If you don't believe I'm sinking, look at the
I
hole I'm
know.
in.
Well, Ma Rainey was one of the greatest. I guess she never did anything that wasn't tops. Don't you agree?
That's right. And she always lived for her blues. She always had that big $20 gold piece in her chest.
Yeah. Oh, well, a wonderful way of expressing it.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And that knocked me out because all the hustlers in New Orleans used to wear that. Yeah.
I know. All the hustlers
On
had the
the
$20
belt.
gold piece on the belts. Yeah.
That's right.
You know, though it's hard to compare a vocal blues with your trumpet, it seems to me, the CFR, they have something in common.
You see, when they sang the blues, I fill in the open spots.
The open spots. It was the naturalness of it,
For
wasn't
something in those
it?
days.
It was the naturalness of it, the
Yeah.
pure beauty of it.
You don't play while they're singing because you might lose the lyrics.
It was-
But if she said, if you don't believe I'm singing, look what I will. Baba do boo boo da do da, you know.
It's the natural simplicity and expertness of the performance, isn't it?
Yeah, and then we're feeling each other.
But about this time,
That's right.
you recorded with another great aggregation, the Red Onion Blues.
Yeah.
Now, that was in November of 24.
But those are the days they made up names.
As they went.
Yeah.
Sure. But
Yeah.
there were a lot of different combinations.
I mean, you go there and you make a blues or a record or something. Well, what do we name it? And then what do we name the band? It's the same bunch of cats.
It's the same cats. And then the next night we'd have another bunch of cats, and we'd call them the same band.
The Harlem Feet Warmers.
Well, there were a lot of different combinations in this, but there's one of them here, Cakewalking Babies from Home.
That's Clarence Williams.
Yeah, no, this one I'm speaking of. There were you and Sidney Bechet, of course, both New Orleans.
But it was Clarence Williams' band.
Oh, was that Clarence Williams' band, too?
Yeah.
Well, you were the major talent.
With
You and
Bechet,
Sidney.
yeah.
Yeah, Bechet.
And Eva Taylor. Eva Taylor.
Well, now, see, who we have on that one? We have,
Eva Taylor sang Cakewalking Babies back home.
yeah, that was Buddy Christian, the banjo.
Banjo, yeah.
A little hard piano.
Well, I mean, in those days, everybody was recording, and they get so many recordings,
There's
you
different
know,
combinations,
and you
sure.
get different names. But we made a lot of records with Clarence
There was
Williams.
a fellow named Buster Bailey.
Buster Bailey
was on
played the clarinet.
Uh-huh.
See, and I was with Fletcher Henderson at the Roseland, and Bessie Smith recorded every day for months, and every day a different member of the band played.
Well, you don't know that. You've settled a tremendous argument with a
That's right.
very good friend of mine. This friend of mine happens to own and operate one of the better department stores here in San Diego, and he and I have been arguing about this same thing you and I have talking about, and you just won me $5, and I thank you.
Yeah, well, give me a buck. And
There we go. All right, now how about Trixie Smith? What?
well, I made a few records with her, but she was leaving the scene in those days.
Yeah, but she had on one for Railroad Blues. You had that rough and dirty tone, and boy, that fits the blues.
But Bessie Smith was coming in then.
Yes, I know she was.
And
Trixie.
Clara Smith, and all them, and Maggie Jones, and all them people was coming in. You
Sure.
see, in that
She was
era,
getting
around
crowded.
24, everybody was jumping, but some was fading out.
Yeah,
And I dug it that way. you know.
sure, and you were right. That's the way it
Yeah,
turned out.
but whatever numbers you call, I made it with them.
I think that rough and dirty tone of yours,
Yeah,
where you
well-
came up, is important.
See, in England, they call it guttural.
Now we come into the real beginning of the great Louis Armstrong. And that was the band under your own name. I mean, everybody likes their own band.
I like to hear it, but I never said it. You know.
There's a lot of legend, as well as fact, in the world of classic jazz from down there in New Orleans. And my wife came there, and I've heard more legend from
They're
her.
still blowing down there too. The youngsters coming up.
Yeah, there are youngsters coming up. There's one down there I heard. We don't play on classic jazz's contemporary stuff, but there's a fellow named Fountain down there. Have you heard any of his
Pete
stuff?
Fountain?
Yeah. He's pretty
I
good.
heard him with the big band there.
You know, that'd be a mighty interesting recording if you, with this wealth of background and knowledge, ever got together with Pete Fountain.
Well,
Do you think that would be
It
interesting?
wouldn't be no problem because I just made an album with the Dukes of Dixieland.
You did?
So with him, it would be just wonderful.
Well, I think it would be
'Cause
awfully
we speak
interesting.
the same language,
Yes,
and
of course.
we understand the same notes. The same as we go to Europe, we play with the
Sure.
musicians. We play
Well,
Dixieland.
you know, he seems to me to have sort of the feel, don't you think?
Yeah, well, he's got the feel. It's born in him. He
Yeah.
played beautiful clarinet. There wouldn't be no problem at all.
Well, let's get to the next stage of this amazing history, and that was the Louis Armstrong Orchestra. And I've heard a story. There's so many stories. Will you set me straight on something?
Yeah.
It's said that during your childhood, you perched yourself atop a coal cart, and you sold charcoal to the lovers of Creole cuisine in the Vieux
Yeah.
Care.
Well, charcoal, stone coal.
Hmm.
He's
And
good.
that you croaked your wares, I'm now quoting from something I read in the library. You croaked your wares in a voice as hoarse as you could muster. Is this true or false?
Well, I wrote the tune.
That's right. That's where it came from,
And
didn't
we
it?
made it with the Claude Johnson, Lil, and the
That's right, and that's where they came. And you actually did do that, did you?
I did the lyrics and everything.
One more question. What pulled the cart? Was a horse or a mule?
A coal cart is a ton truck that you carry a ton of coal and you deliver it to somebody's house. And they put it down in their cellar. And you get so much to load, and then they'll give you broken sandwich, a few nickels to take it in. So this name it the Cold Cart Blues.
Cold Cart Blues.
Yeah.
Was a mule falling there?
A mule, it's the only thing could pull that ton of coal.
It had to be a mule, not a horse.
And at 6 o'clock, he must have been a union mule. 'Cause
A
he'd look
union
around.
mule.
I'd say, get up. He'd look around and say, are you kidding?
He just turned around and look at you.
Time's gone.
He'd
said.
wiggle those ears. Now, this mule intrigues me.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like mules. Mules, I'm sure, don't like me.
Well, they're not bad.
Well, I stand at 6 o'clock
They're
night.
like
That mule.
human beings, that's one thing. I
that-
had to hook him up 5:30 in the morning. you know.
5:30 in the morning. You went all day
and
with
they
it?
look around and say, you yeah again.
Well,
life, you know.
What did he go on right on? For?
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, you just can renege so much. And that's his routine.
So,
And we only got 15 cents a load.
15 cents a load.
Take it way up in the rich sections.
Yeah?
But I was a kid, about 15 years old, and I drive.
What happened to
My mule named Lady, and I drive.
What was the mule's name? Lady?
Lady. And at 12 o'clock, I'd had my little sack ape on and my can for my beer and a ham sandwich. And it was
What'd
just
the mule get?
Well, he got hay and oats.
You carried that with you?
No, he got his meals on time like everybody else.
Like everybody else. Well, what happened when 6 o'clock at night came around?
6 o'clock, I don't care where it was. If it around that stable, I'd say, get up here. He'd say, you kidding?
He just stopped, huh?
Time's gone, he'd tell me.
Well, of course, he didn't get the 15 cents a load.
But he got his hay and his oats.
Well,
One day I rode him down the street backwards, you know.
You did what?
After I took the harness off, I rode him down the street backwards because I lost a dime in his oats.
And so that's the story of Cold Cart Blues. I've always thought, though, that seriously, that it is one of the most remarkable recordings you ever made, because it really only featured two instruments, you on trumpet and Bechet on soprano sax. I mean,
Yeah, we
musically,
took the solos.
You took the whole thing.
But the whole band played the background.
Sure.
Did you know that
Yeah.
Claude Johnson? You remember that?
That's it. So you had two instruments to keep the ensemble full.
Yeah, well, every time you play a tune, you don't have to have everybody to take a solo.
Sure, then you had the rhythm.
Sometimes I took solos just by myself because it was enough.
Sure. But there was only the two instruments that carried the ensemble. Then you had the rhythm with Addison
Yeah.
was it on the guitar, and
Yeah,
that
Addison
was
carried-
Browd and Wellman Browd again on the bass.
That's right. That's right. But I mean, I just want to let you know, everybody didn't take a solo in everything we played because it wasn't necessary.
No, of course it wasn't. And but the remarkable thing, I don't know any other that you ever recorded that I've heard where there were just two instruments, you and Bechet. I mean, the rest of it was just pure rhythm. That's all.
Okay, well, you stick around.
I'll learn. Well, now, I want to know, though, how did you keep those harmonic phrases blending into that perfect interweaving of parts and make it so natural and unobtrusive?
Well,
How's that done?
That comes from memory of the players. Don't care how much music you put in front of the good old players of the old days, they're supposed to have a good memory.
Mm-hmm.
You don't play that same piece of music every night.
Yeah, and
No.
practice, of course.
You don't pull it up every time you can. After you looked at it once or twice and they put it aside. That's why a lot of people thought we didn't know how to read music because they never see no music.
Oh,
you won't
most of
see
you
a
did
piece-
know how to music.
They won't see a piece of music the night we played a concert. But still, no, we played 3 hours.
Yeah,
Never repeat the
Memory.
same. Yeah, that's what.
and feel.
And for well, if it's from memory, it's got to feel it.
Sure, you got to be inside.
That's what we're there for.
Yeah.
Put our
Well,
weight on the
I
soul.
can't agree. It's just memory because there's a touch of genius in it. It has to be.
Well, what is memory but genius?
Yes, I guess that's right.
You
I
know?
guess that's right.
Yeah.
Now, you had your band, Louis Armstrong.
That's right.
With down in Honky Tonk Town and Perdido. Is that right? Is that Perdido?
Perdido.
Blues, Perdido Street Blues. And
Yeah.
I think there's one of them must be a personal favorite of yours, and I'm referring to Some Sweet Day, which was recorded late in 1933.
We played that. We enjoyed
and
it.
It must have been a favorite because you wrote the foreword to Hugh's book, Fanassi's book on Guide to Jazz, and of course he, in picking the records for the great album that was put out, Guide to Jazz, he picked this of yours, in his opinion, as being one of your best. And he wrote the Jacket Story, remember, for RCA.
Yeah,
and this is a revival, I guess. I mean, I could call it a revival. But I think this, again, gives a different touch to this thing. And is it one of your favorites?
Yeah. In fact, I like everything I ever played.
Well, you have every right to like everything you play, because I never heard anything this good.
I mean, you got to feel everything you play, and it's certain like, now my favorite song is Sleepy Time Down South, but still now we play 100 tunes and put our soul in them. Because you see the life of them and the feel, and that's what the people get when they sit there.
They feel it inside.
That's it.
That's what all of these listeners feel. There's a lot of famous names, and of course there's a lot of wonderful musicians that never got to be famous names. We both know this.
Yeah, well, they died too soon.
They died too soon.
Yeah,
These were the sidemen. Now, on the Some Sweet Day.
Some Sweet Day, yeah.
It was, Keg Johnson, trombone, right?
Yeah, he's still alive.
He's still alive. There's Scoville Brown.
Scoville's still alive.
George Olam, they were on sax, both of them, weren't they?
That's right.
And Bud Johnson was on the tenor sax.
Still alive.
Teddy Wilson, piano. Well,
he's still around.
Mike McKendrick, banjo.
He's got a barbecue joint in Chicago.
He has?
Yeah, good ribs. Giant bones, they call them.
Are they good?
Oh, good. Lick your chops, man.
Next time in Chicago, I'm going to look it up. What's its address?
33rd in Indiana.
33rd in Indiana.
Yes, sir.
I'm going there. Bill Oldham on bass.
Yeah, Bill Oldham.
Where's he?
Well, one of the Oldhams died. It was Bill and George. I think George died.
No.
Yeah.
You know what
But
Bill
Bill is still playing around.
Is he playing around?
Yeah,
And
on
then
the
it was
outskirts.
Porter on the drums, right?
Yank Porter was
Yank Porter.
a very good drummer. He used to wear his hat turned up.
Up in the front.
Yeah, you remember?
Yeah. But this brings up sidemen. Now, sidemen, I mean, after all, are important. I mean, they're a
They're
background.
stars. They're stars like anybody else.
Sure.
That's what they call my band now, all stars.
Well, now at this date that you're playing here, who are the sidemen you got here?
Well, right now I have Trummer Young, who's been with me for years, right after Jack T. Gordon,
Jack Bradley.
on trombone.
Yeah.
Billy Kyle on piano. Bonnie Bigard, who's one of the founders.
Was he with you on this date?
On all dates. He's the clarinet man.
Well.
We have Mart Herbert on bass, and we have Danny Barcelona on drums, and I'm directing the band.
Well, you're not even there.
And Velma Middleton's still with us.
Oh, well, you've got
the same.
Practically the same aggregation.
Yeah. Too bad I didn't bring the write-up from Victoria last night.
Yeah, you just got back from playing up there in Canada.
We had 6 days in Canada. We played Edmonton, Calgary, and we played Kelowna and Vancouver.
That beautiful country up there?
Yeah.
That's where you're a great admirer.
We had
I
to
mentioned.
change so many planes to make those gigs and get there
Well,
just
but
time to have wash our face. That's the life of a musician that loves their music.
That's incidentally where a fellow Lou Overgaard I told you about that was such an admirer of yours that has this business down there. That's where he is now. I'll tell you the story about him. You tell him stories. He goes up there trout fishing up there.
Yeah, Ben goes up there too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So he goes on up there trout
Phil
fishing.
Harris.
Yeah, and you know what he does? He catches these trout and then he gives these cocktail parties for people. See, and he has kippered trout.
Yeah.
He figures it costs $200 per kippered trout that he serves his friends.
Is that right?
He's crazy.
Yeah, I asked the man, I said, well, what does Bing and all the boys, what they do with all that fish? They can just put it in deep freeze.
Yeah, that's a funny
And
guy.
serve their friends in Hollywood,
Well, believe me, Satchmo plays now like he's always
Time
played,
marches on.
but doesn't change your playing any.
Say, but the rudimentals are there. Did that come out of me?
Well, to close out here now, would you say, Louis, that your rendition of Down in Honky Tonk Town with this group of yours, this your own band, would you say this is a gold record?
Well, I think everything we ever played is gold record. If you left it up to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yes.
Well,
I think it's a gold record of that area.
That's right.
But every time we start, the shark has, when the house just come down for no
That's
reason
right.
at all.
well,
Back the knife.
there's a vigorous
I mean,
introduction.
But the same swing is there and everything. I just want them to know we don't have to just play Honky Tonk Town to get the same feeling.
Sure.
The people get the beat and the boot
Sure.
from whatever you're playing.
Right. There's a very vigorous introduction to the last bar, that all-in chorus on Down in Honky Tonk Town that ends the record, of course. And I think that's the thing that most, particularly the younger kids today, boy, they really wham. They
But
feel
everything we're playing today is the essence
Same
from
thing.
that. And mighty poor musician that don't pat himself on the back of his own self
Well, let me ask you.
and doing something about it.
Sure. Let me ask you this. The verse section was given solely on this number to trumpet and trombone, and this wasn't normal. But is it because it was so perfect for the tailgate trombone that this was done?
No, we could arrange it from the idea that was the only thing fit in there. We could have put Béchet in there. It'd been
It still would have fit as well.
just as well. But sometime we'll put an arrangement and we don't need nothing but a
Yeah.
trumpet and trombone there. Because they're all just like the Yanks, all stars.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
They could change position and do everything and get the same results. I could have put Béchet, I could have put Lou Russell.
In other words, you could have done it either way.
Anyway.
Any way at all.
Still would have been
And so
great.
you'd still end up with this all-out chorus
Yeah.
at the end, and you'd have the
Probably
same
we didn't
thing.
have time for anybody else.
Well, Satchmo, there we have it.
That's it.
We covered a lot of years, didn't we?
Yeah, and I tell the people, they say, well, how do you manage to play 48 years and do that? I say, well, I take a laxative every night.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think, and I hope you do, that this parade of the talents of the great Louis Armstrong, better known as the great Satchmo, should conclusively prove to everyone that there is nothing that he cannot do in his field.
That's right.
Just review the different Armstrongs, the many different techniques,
it.
as he just said. The pure genius of the man whose contribution to present-day jazz, spelled with a Z where we spell ours, J-A-S-S,
Yeah.
has been more varied and influential than any other individual. Satchmo, I want to thank you for being our guest on Classic Jazz. It's been an honor and a privilege.
All right. And I just want everybody to know that from sleepy time down south on, you got a beautiful show coming up.
Well, I'm sure we have that. I mean, and there's no show that you've ever been connected with that it hasn't been absolutely.
And I'm very serious about it. I'm very happy about it, and I'll be just like the boy that sit on a block of ice. My tale is told.